Hello, and welcome to today's edition of Ask the Expert. Today's expert is a fun one. She gets to be an artist on other artists. She gets to paint the faces and create the hairstyles of artists at American Ballet Theatre. Our guest today is Rena Most. She's the supervisor of hair and makeup at American Ballet Theatre. She's been with American Ballet Theatre for the past 8 years. Rena, thank you for making the time away from your busy schedule to tell us all there is to know about how to look beautiful on stage.
Yes.
Right at first, let's start with the basics. What's the difference between stage-specific makeup and just makeup that people use in life?
Okay, so everyday life and makeup, people generally want to look better. That's the point of enhancing features. But on stage, it's much more practical. It's not only to look beautiful, but it's to be seen from such a far distance. So we have to enhance the features in order for the audience to see the features, especially under very bright lights. The lights wash you out and your three-dimensional face often becomes two-dimensional. So we kind of use all these other artistic techniques to bring your face into the three-dimension and to be seen from a distance, so we enlarge your features as well as accentuate them and make them three-dimensional.
Yeah, because sometimes I even I was at the theater last night and I knew we were going to tape this, and I was looking at the different features on stage of the makeup, and this one dancer had the eyeliner, but it was just like a line in the middle of the cheeks, and you go like, did they miss it? so it's to make the eyes bigger from further in the distance.
Yes,
it's a very
absolutely.
specific type of makeup.
Absolutely, and it's to look your best, and we very often have the privilege to create characters and not necessarily make people look their best, but to create these imaginative characters and bring them to life. So whether it's the witch or the old man, we're working with the dancers who are all fairly very young, but we're creating them into something else. So mainly we do beauty, and that's what most dancers and young dancers, whether you're competing or performing, is to look your best and to accentuate your features for an audience. But once you get into full lengths or story ballets, we also get to be a little bit more creative and create imaginative characters, which is awesome.
You get to play all the time.
Yeah, we get to play all the time, and it's kind of that finishing touch. The costume and the sets bring you into that time period or bring you into that character, and the hair and makeup just that finish it off. If you're wearing a 18th century French soldier suit, but your hair is very modern, it takes away from that. It messes with your eyes, and it no longer makes sense because the set is in the 1800s and your costume is in 1800s, but your haircut is 2018 Brooklyn hipster. So the wigs and the facial hair and the makeup really finalize that look, or like we said, make you look your absolute best for when you perform.
Right, so we'll have a whole separate episode on hair. Hair is a whole different universe, right?
Yes.
So if we focus on the actual application of makeup on the face, one thing that you said is that stage makeup is very specific to deal with a very specific circumstance of bright lights and of you having to look a certain way from far, from far away, so that's why you might paint your eyes this big, so that they can be seen from the back row of the theater. And the lights, by the way, totally change the way the colors work too.
Absolutely.
So that's something that we have to consider. Well, let's actually, even before we get to the makeup, a crucial part of how a face looks is just the skin. That's what you put makeup on. So can you share, are there tips that you have on how to best maintain your skin?
Yeah, skincare, just like any other part of your body, is very important to care for, and it will not only affect your look, but also how makeup sits on you and how the longevity of makeup and just your overall health for sure. A few very general tips is, first off, hydrating. Making sure you drink enough water, not only for your body to work properly and healthily, but it also is the easiest way for your skin to look its best. If you don't drink enough water, you're going to notice the bags under your eyes get darker, your lips get chapped easier, your skin might feel drier, and that is diet as well. Having a healthy, balanced diet is always very important, not only for your body, but for your skin. If you're not getting your vitamins and nutrients, your skin is gonna lose the liveliness and color, and it's gonna get to be a duller gray. And you lose that natural illuminating look that most people want. So being healthy is so important for every reason.
How much water is enough? Like for, say, I don't know, a 13, 14-year-old dancer?
I think everybody's different. I am not a nutritionist. You know, if you're exercising, you certainly need a lot more water than somebody not exercising because you're not losing that body water. I think that's something you could probably easily Google and find for each individual person. Boys are different than girls. But your body usually tells you if you need more water, if you're constantly thirsty, if your lips are constantly dry, if you get headaches a lot of that often is from dehydration.
And you mentioned food. What are some general guidelines in terms of food?
Again, I'm not a
Skin-wise.
nutritionist. I think a lot of it is old myths and theories. However, some people will say very oily food will make your skin oily. Some people will say chocolate will make you break out. Some people say dairy makes you break out. It's going to be different for everybody. Ultimately, the bottom line is your skin makeup is very much influenced by genetics, and that's going to be one of the biggest factors. Hormones, stress, those are the things that are really going to play a big part into your skincare. The diet, specifically foods, is going to play a small part of that.
Well, and also you said stress, right? Like,
Yes.
so I've read that stress is, you know, in terms of breakouts, you know,
Yes.
and facial blemishes, stress is probably the number one,
Yes.
you know, sort of thing to
Yeah.
combat. Another thing that I read is sleep. Talk about sleep. Is
Yeah.
sleep important?
Sleep's important for every reason, whether it's the bags under your eyes or your legs recovering from dancing all day. Sleep is incredibly important. If we don't take care of our body is only going to last so long in the way we want it to function. So sleeping properly, eating properly, drinking enough water is important across the board, especially when you're an athlete, and all dancers are athletes. They're exercising an immense amount every day. A lot of times they're growing, they're young, they're teenagers, so you really need to take care of your body so it can do what you want it to do and work so hard for what you're working for.
Right, and there's also a conversation about when is the right age to start applying creams and taking care of your, you know, skin in terms of that. But I know one thing that everybody agrees upon is that keeping it clean is the number one, especially for younger dancers, is the number one concern. Would you agree?
Yes, I do agree. Cleaning your skin and caring for your skin is very important, especially if you're somebody who is sweating all day in studios or competing regularly and applying makeup. Cleaning your skin, removing the makeup afterwards is always very important. I personally I'm less is more type person. I'm not somebody who buys 8 million products, but there's a lot of wonderful things that you can find in your house or easily find in a drugstore. Skincare and cleansers. It depends on your skin. Everybody's very different. So it's not a direct science for one person. It's trial and error, what works for you. Cleaning your skin with soap too often can actually counteract what you want it to do. You don't want to overwash your face because it dries it out and it removes all the good things you want. But at the end of the night, especially if you have makeup on, you want to remove it, you want to wash your face, you want to moisturize it. And then in the morning, you probably don't need to wash it with cleanser again, but you could just tone it. You can use lemon water or witch hazel, something that's very gentle, very natural, and just remove that extra oil and make you fresh, but you don't need to scrub it again. Right. Exfoliating is something that's very important for everybody. Especially for young dancers, for teenagers, most young kids, I'd say under maybe 12, their skin is so young that they don't need to exfoliate as much, but exfoliation removes the dead skin. And what that means is everybody's skin and hair and nails, they die constantly, the cells die. And when dead skin sits on top of clean skin, it creates a barrier. Nothing can properly go in and nothing can properly come out because that dead skin is just sitting there. So if your makeup is not sitting properly, maybe because it's sitting on dead skin and not live skin. If you are breaking out a little bit more, maybe that's because the oils can't come out of your skin because the dead skin is sitting on top and blocking it from coming out. So exfoliation removes that dead skin so you can properly care for your live skin and apply makeup to your live skin. And the easiest way to exfoliate is anything that's scrubby. My favorite is brown sugar. It's good for your skin, it's good for the environment, it's inexpensive, it's accessible everywhere, and you just get raw brown sugar and you can mix it with a cleanser or use it by itself. You wet your face, you do a little sugar rub, and that's that.
How often would you recommend that?
Depending on the skin, anywhere from 1 to 3 times a week. If you have very dry skin, I'd say 3 times a week. If your skin is pretty moist or oily and it doesn't seem, you can tell that everything's kind of working as it should be, I'd say about once a week.
So you brought up something really important, that for the makeup to sit on the skin, you have to make sure that it's actual skin it's sitting on, not the dead cells that are on top of your skin. So I'm learning so much in this conversation. But so one thing is keeping your skin clean. Another thing is, eating right, making sure to stay hydrated and sleeping and trying to not get too stressed out. Maybe try meditation, whatever helps you relax and not stress out. Another thing you said is that sometimes you mentioned that there is some skincare that is recommended for young children, right? Because there's a whole debate of, if you put too much product on the skin, then it gets lazy and it doesn't want to work as hard to produce its own emollients or whatever the skin produces. What would you say about that in terms of product to use on the face?
I think it's a very specific question for very specific people.
Right.
It really is going to depend. There are so many different skin types. There's so many different ethnicities that their skin works different. So I really do recommend each individual person kind of looking into it more because it's not one answer fits all. And some people don't need anything. I got very lucky genetically. I do nothing to my skin. If I get wrinkly one day, I get wrinkly one day. I try to take, and other people are completely different. My sisters are different. They have different skin. So it really depends. I mean, some people say start using eye cream at 20. Sure, try it. Some people, it's, if you take care of yourself and the inner of you, like your skin's going to kind of react to that. Facials are good if somebody is struggling with tougher skin or they break out more. A facial is actually going to push everything out, and your skin actually might get worse before it gets better, but that's because there's stuff to remove, whether it's hormones or dirt or a buildup or bacteria. And some people, it's simply genetic, and maybe they need medication, whether that's taken orally or topically. There's creams, and if it's genetic, there's really nothing you can do in your everyday diet except these little tips because that's just how you're made up.
So, do you put a cream or anything on the skin before you put makeup on it?
It depends on the person. For sure, and there's a lot of different products out there. There are primers, and sometimes somebody, if they're very uneven, if their skin's very uneven, or if they need to be on a film set for 12 hours, a primer may help, and it creates a barrier between the skin and the makeup, and it absorbs the makeup a little bit stronger if their skin doesn't do that on its own. Sometimes, especially on stage, where somebody's on stage for 2-3 hours max, sometimes we don't use a primer. Sometimes when we're doing special effects, that's when you use a primer because that material is much harsher on the skin, and we use a barrier. Some people never need to use a primer. Some people, their makeup stays perfectly.
Well, I was going to say, if you're sweating on stage and doing hard physical work, how does the makeup stay on? Is it a special kind of makeup?
It would be depending, again, on the person, but also what type of makeup you're using. So there's many, many different products out there, and you can use a liquid foundation, a cream foundation, a water-based foundation, and depending on what works best for you, any of those could last even through sweat. There's plenty of waterproof products now, and those often help. And even if you're doing something from a drugstore, a cream or liquid foundation, what's really going to help you is setting it with powder versus just leaving it bare. When you set it with powder, it really sets it in place, and that's going to help you sweat through it. Often, even if you're sweating, the sweat is coming out of the pores, but unless if you wipe it, the makeup is going to just sit and the water's going to seep through the makeup.
Right.
So if you're sweating, we recommend you pat it.
Right.
If you smear it, now you're going to have makeup everywhere.
Then you mess it all up. Well,
Yeah.
I understand you actually brought in some models so you can physically show the things you're talking about. How fun.
Yeah. We're going to show a few things. A lot of it is going to be more technique of what works on stage, contouring, what is contouring, how much contouring you have, if you have different complexions, what colors work best for you. So we'll do a few little demos, and then we'll do a little makeovers for stage.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Who doesn't love makeover?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna take at these two ladies and look at their skin types and skin tones and see what's gonna work best for them on stage. Melanie here has a beautiful fair complexion and she has a lot of pinks in her skin. She has a little bit of an oily or combo skin, so we're gonna go with a liquid base versus an oil-based foundation, and then we can powder her. Neo here has a little bit of drier complexion, so we could do an oil-based cream foundation. And she's a little bit more yellow, so we can enhance that and use that for her highlights and also add a little bit more rosy pink colors to illuminate her skin a little bit more. So we're gonna apply foundation all over her face. This is gonna be a cream base. I'm using a beauty blender, but you can use any type of sponge or brush that works best for you. Next, I'm going to do a very soft contour using a powder. I'm going to very slightly accentuate her cheekbones. Next, using a lighter color powder, we're going to highlight her. Use a soft pinky blush to give her cheeks some color. You can go right over your contour to give it a very soft look. Next, we'll do her eyeliner. You're going to close your eyes. I like to start from the outside and work my way in to gain control and keep your lines nice and smooth. For eyeshadow, we're going to keep it very natural in color and use neutral colors. And we're going to contour her eye, but ever so slightly. She already has very big, beautiful eyes, so we don't need to exaggerate them much, but just enough that they can be seen from a distance. So we start with a light color and cover the whole lid. And then we'll go in with a darker color to contour them. So we're gonna start from the outer corner and we're gonna make a little V from the outer corner down to the eyeliner and then in where the natural crease is. And then with a bigger brush, we will blend the two colors together. Since Melanie's eyebrows are nice and dark and prominent, we can brush them, but we don't need to exaggerate them. Then put a light highlight under the eyebrow to accentuate the eyebrow bone. We're going to do under eyeliner. For stage, you want to do your under eyeliner a little bit lower than you would normally place it for streetwear. If you look up for me. Again, we're going to start at the outer corner. And we're going to go right below the waterline. We're going to slowly make our way in. Lightly exaggerate the eye look up by bringing out that outer wing just ever so slightly on both the top and bottom. Okay. You also don't want to go too far in because that will start to close your eye. Again, start from the outside. And for stage, we'll do a nice neutral reddish pink. I like to go over it with a clear chapstick to keep the lips nice and moisturized and to blend the color together. We'll finish off with some mascara. You can also use fake eyelashes depending on what size stage you're on. Just need a little bit on Melanie, and look up for me.
And now, it's Charlie's turn. As always, Rena starts with foundation. After the foundation is applied, she explains the basic principles of contouring.
Okay, so now that you have foundation on, we're gonna go over some basic contour tips. The contouring for stage is very similar for men and women. How you apply it and what you use to apply it is gonna be up to you what works best for your skin and skin tone. Sometimes the men go a little bit stronger and sometimes the women use softer colors, but the technique is gonna be the same. So contouring is to create dimension. So we want to use darker colors to push back, and we're going to use brighter colors to bring the features forward. So I'm going to use a very dramatic color palette right now to show you, and then I'll use a soft one on the other side of his face. So first we're going to start with placement. So we're going to use the contour first, and the contour is going to set back. So if he wants stronger cheekbones, we're going to push back underneath his bone to recede it, and then we'll bring the cheekbone forward. So we're gonna start with a darker color, darker than your skin tone, and we're gonna start at your hairline and make a soft line. We're gonna stop right around the corner of your eye. We're gonna do the same for your jawline. We're gonna go right under your jaw. We'll make it a bit darker to see. And then we're gonna do the inner eye corner and down your nose. And then we're gonna highlight to bring forward. Your highlight is gonna be lighter than your skin tone, and you're gonna put it where you want to bring out. So we wanna pronounce his cheekbones. We're gonna go right onto that bone. Again, you're gonna stop at the corner of your eye. Your jawline will follow your jawline to your chin, and then the bridge of your nose. Look this way. Once it's in place, you can blend it together. You can use powders or creams. The creams will be a bit stronger, and we're gonna do powders on this side for a much softer look, especially if you're on a smaller stage. But the same technique, you're gonna start at the hairline with a darker color and stop about the corner of your eye. The same with your jawline. And the same with your side of your nose. We'll then add a highlight to push the features out. So we're gonna do a lighter color on the cheekbone and on the jawline and on top of your nose. That is your basic contour for men and women. How you blend it is depending on how big your stage is or how strong you want your features to be. So to blend it in, you can use a variety of tools. You could use sponges, beauty blenders, brushes. I'm gonna use a brush today, and I'm gonna do small circles to blend it into the foundation. And you just work it until it's where you want it to be.
Rena finishes Charlie's makeup using the same techniques she used for Melanie. First, she adds blush over the contour to give the cheeks some color. Then she applies eyeshadow, top and bottom eyeliner, and a lip liner with chapstick to keep the lips moisturized. For Neo, Rena starts with foundation using a color that matches the skin tone and adds a little bit of pink to the blend to illuminate the skin. She blends the foundation in. Next, she contours and highlights to bring definition to Neo's features. She uses powder to set and blend the foundation and the contour, adding blush to the cheeks. Next, the eyes. To exaggerate the eyebrows, she fills them in a little so they appear darker. She applies a neutral color to the entire lid, putting a lighter color under the eyebrow to accentuate the eyebrow bone. When applying the top eyeline, she starts from the outside, working her way in. Rena applies a darker eyeshadow along the crease to get a smoky eye effect. To really open the eyes for the stage, Rena highlights with light eyeshadow under the eye. The bottom eyeliner will go underneath the highlight, slightly lower than where you might put it for everyday wear. For stage, you can also extend both the top and the bottom liner out ever so slightly. Next, you can apply either mascara or false eyelashes if you're on a bigger stage. And finally, the lips. For Neo, Rena chose a pinkish red. She lines the lips, fills them in with the same color, and finishes with clear chapstick to blend it all together and keep the lips moisturized.
So as you can see, we do each face individually, but keeping a lot of the same techniques and tweaking it for each face. But it's also very important to know that makeup is not a science and it's going to be different for every person. So you just got to experiment and try what works best for you.
Our expert today was Rena Most. She is the hair and makeup supervisor at American Ballet Theatre, and would like to thank our beautiful models, Neo, Melanie, and Charlie. Thank you, guys. And I'm Sergey Gordeev, and we'll see you next time on Ask the Expert.